Father Tom Ryan is a renowned Irish St. Patrick's missionary who spent most of his missionary life working in my country, Nigeria. I, Joe.Archibong, also a member of the St. Patrick's Missionary Society, was privileged to be one of his students and disciples when he was director of the St. Patrick's Society Initial Formation Program. Happily retired now in Ireland, he turned 91 recently and agreed to an interview with Spms Media. He begins with his early life.
Okay, Joe, thank you for the privilege of being able to record my story. Anyway, my story begins with my own birth on the 21st of September 1932. There were 4 siblings before me: Greta, May, who became a Nurse-line nun, Billy, and then in 1929, they were born in the early 20s. In 1929, then my mother had another sibling, Josephine. She just lived 6 months. And it was only recently that I discovered her story and what it was, a very short story of 6 months. I was born in 32. 1939 or 40, there was another baby born with Ailbe. That baby only lived for a number of weeks. So 6 of us in all, but 4 adults. I came from a small family, a family farm. My father was a carpenter, and there were poor times, but we managed and we were happy and we had fun as children. I think I received a lot of love myself, and life for me was good. I went to primary school, a local school. It was a one-teacher school, just with about 14 or 15 pupils in it. After that, time came for secondary school. I was very far away from secondary school, CBS Thurles. But my aunt came, she was living here in Holy Cross. So I came to her and cycled to school 10 miles each, 5 miles each day back and forth. Got my secondary school, and the usual secondary school, I didn't create any trouble or what like that. I was taught Latin and Greek as a secondary school. And then when I went to Kiltegan in 1951, we did the spiritual year. After that, secondary school is 1946 to 1951. Then in September 51, I went to Kiltegan and did the spiritual year. And after the spiritual year, that was with Father Corny Plunkett. And he was a man back from the missions, and he was able to give us stories about the missions to enthuse us and to tell us what we were preparing for. At that time, we were just kind of searching to make sure we had the right vocation. But I was fairly sure going forward. Somebody who influenced me for Kiltegan and the missions was a priest, Father Roger Canan, who was ordained in 1951, the very year that I had finished secondary school and went on to Kiltegan. So he was, unknown to him, he was the one that influenced me. And in Kiltegan, the spiritual year, 51, 52. University College Cork, 1952 to 1955. I studied Latin and Greek, the classics and philosophy. Did well. I got a first class honours degree, and then back to Kiltegan for theology. I don't remember too much about theology, but we didn't get good grounding in the Old Testament because our lecturers were not very well versed at that time. And I remember how strict things were. The man teaching us scripture would bring in the sports page on a Monday and read the results for us. So the things of the world were bad and we were good. And we were in that kind of a setting where the world, we had to protect ourselves from the world at that time, so to speak. We have come a long way in all of that. So ordination on the 23rd of May, 1959, with 23 others, a big class, and then After that was in May. We didn't come back to Kiltegan after that because there was no celebration then. Each pre-celebration match, each day at an altar. So they didn't have enough altars for us. So that more or less ended our seminary training, and then came back in August. I just looked at a list to see where we were posted, how impersonal that was. So I was posted to Nigeria.
Having completed his studies and got ordained as a St. Patrick's missionary, Father Tom eventually set sail for Africa.
And I left for Nigeria on the 14th of September, 1959. Sailed from Dublin by boat to Liverpool, got the mail boat, the Apapa, from Liverpool, and set sail for the West Africa. So even that, that was like a cruise journey with a one-way ticket, so. And I remember the excitement of seeing the coast of Africa for the first time, because our training was for Africa. And by the way, during theology, I don't remember much about theology, but I do remember men from the mission coming back and telling us their story and what life was like. And that was a major part of the formation, and we were all together, very united, just going to convert people and full of zeal and energy. Didn't mind leaving home. We just left and we went, and we were young. So I arrived in Ogoja about the 26th of September, 1959. And shortly after that, Nigeria got its independence. So it was a time of great life and expectancy and enthusiasm. And our Bishop McGettrick in Ogoja was a great man for both the medical field and education. He set up the first secondary school in Ogoja, Maryknoll Secondary School. I was appointed there for 3 months, from October to December. Then after that, I was sent to Abakaliki, the other end of the diocese, and to St. Joseph Teacher Training College, from the 1st of January 1960 to 1967. I don't remember too much about that, but I do remember one evening going over at 6:45 to the oratory, which is away from the mission house, to say my prayers, coming back when it was dark. And I stepped on a viper and wasn't bitten. And I remember I saw this animal, as round as my arm. So those in the house, the mission were called, and they killed the snake anyway. And I came back to the house. They gave me a shot of whiskey to counteract the shock. I also got a sting from a scorpion one night. I was out walking, so I had to go to the local clinic, get an injection, and that's all that. And so I'm conscious of scripture in the end of Mark's Gospel, where you will take up snakes and do this kind of thing and they won't harm you. So that experience actually gave me a profound sense of the providence of God and how he protects us in big ways and in small ways. So men who worked with me then, there was Sean Meehan, Tony Bradley, Kieran O'Flynn, in Ebagu.
The Nigerian Civil War, or the Biafran War, took place from 1967 to 1969, when southeastern Nigeria, or Biafra, broke off from the rest of the country as a result of the killings of southern Nigerians in the north of the country after the coup of 1966. Estimates of those who died ranges from 500,000 to 3 million. Father Tom continues his story.
In 1967, I was due to go on leave. But the war actually started that very day. I think the troops came in from Gakem or into Oberud on that side. But there was no way I could leave for home in the normal way. So I had to make my way to Icom, then cross the border from Icom into Mamfe. and from Manfred to Douala, and then take the flight home through Paris and London on to Dublin. So that was that particular part of the story, you know. And didn't come back then until 1968. I don't know, 1968, Bishop McGettrick asked that I be called back, and I went back again to take up an appointment in St. Thomas Teacher Training College in Agoja. And I spent 8 years there from 1968 to 1976.
Bishop McGettrick, also a St. Patrick's missionary, was the Bishop of Ogoja Diocese in the south of Nigeria, where Father Tom worked, and it included Abakaliki Diocese at the time. Father Tom remembers him fondly and vividly.
Nearby was Bishop McGettrick, a very solid missionary. 3:30 every day he would leave the mission house, go over to the cathedral for a holy hour, and then he would come back and he'd play tennis at 5 o'clock. Then I would join him for dinner and the others. So he had the leper village up the road. I remember my first time going into that leprosy settlement, and one of the sisters introduced me to an old man living in his hut, and his fingers, because of the leprosy, were affected. I shook hands with him because we were told in Kiltegan, you shake hands with everybody you meet. So I shook hands with him and we greeted each other, and then I left. But I'll always remember what the sister said when I came out. She said, there was no need to shake hands with him. He didn't expect you to. So imagine a man with leprosy, no expectations whatsoever. And the thought that maybe you could, get leprosy by shaking hands with somebody, which I think would not be true. But that was Bishop McGettrick's work, one of his things. Education, training colleges, secondary school, Maryknoll Secondary School. So I stayed there in 1976. When I got ill myself one morning, my blood pressure went very high. So I was taken to Nanawa and spent 3 weeks in Nanawa. They thought I had got a heart attack, which I didn't, thank God. But I didn't come back to Agoja. So my bits and pieces in Agoja where I was, the local brothers came in, the priests kind of helped themselves to anything that they needed, which is fine. But that was a kind of a second purification. The first was when I came back in to Ibago after the war. The house had been looted. Everything was taken, even the chalice I got, in ordination. But that was part of the purification and all of that.
Father Tom reflects on the almost miraculous growth of the local clergy thanks to the work of the missionaries and the grace of God.
It was like, it was a great missionary adventure then. There was just maybe one Agoja priest, I think Father Joseph Elemi, I think, from Itigity. He was the only one. About 60 white, mostly Irish priests, the same sisters. So that was the change that has taken place. I've been thinking about that. Kieran O'Flint has been filling me in recently about the number of seminarians now in Agoja and the number of priests and the transformation that has taken place. So no European missionaries, all African. And really that's what we were about, I think in general, was to make ourselves redundant and create a space for young Nigerians to come, like yourself, to take over and to do the necessary. So back to Ireland, and I was saying to myself, I'll take 3 months holiday and 3 months rest, 6 months. But the 6 months turned out to be 6 years, because Peter O'Reilly asked me to come to Kiltegan. So I joined the seminary there. I did my little bit with homiletics and catechetics. And then in 1978, I was asked by Peter Finnegan, Superior General, if I would become the house leader, the first house leader actually in Kiltegan, which I did for 4 years, working my way through something and creating a structure which wasn't there before, which wasn't that too easy. So then one of the councillors in 1982, John Carroll, approached me and asked me if I would go to St. Paul's Missionary Society in Epero Remo, which I did. So went there, and we already were there because it was up and running since 1977. And Cardinal Camden was very instrumental in that in those early days. And he sought the help of Kiltegan, and Peter O'Reilly was there to support that. So we Kiltegans helped out very much there. And I remember in 1982, one of the first students I met was Hyacinth Bebo, who today is Bishop in Bomadi. So one of my little claims to fame is that I at least had a hand in the formation of Hyacinth. But when I left, Hyacinth took over from me. He became the formation director at that particular time. At that time, I felt I needed a break from formation, having been in it since 1982. So I took a long sabbatical, and the sabbatical was to work in a parish with a friend of mine in Folsom, Sacramento Diocese in California. And that was a very productive year and a half there, to be in a parish, not teaching, and to minister to people in all their various needs. I enjoyed that very, very much. And then I was called back again to start formation of our own students in Nigeria, Ijebu in September 1997. And Joe, you could tell some of that story from there on, wasn't. But before leaving, one of the things I remember is having a hand in the formation of somebody who has become a very good golfer. I took them down one day to the barracks and they started playing golf, and Richard is now a very classy golfer, and also gave him my guitar, which I had bought from the States. So that is my little bit of claim to fame from Ijebu and Mushin.
So time came for Father Tom to say goodbye to his beloved Nigeria and to begin a new missionary phase.
So after all those years in Nigeria, with the climate and everything else, I felt that some of my time had come maybe to leave Nigeria. But then word got out, and I was asked to go to, as house leader, to West Moseley, in England. I spent 4 years there. That was quite an ordinary thing. Helped out in promotion a little bit up and down the country, and helped out at mission days. Then my term was coming to an end, and I asked the local bishop, Bishop Kieran, if he would take me on into the diocese, which he did. So I was appointed then to a parish in Peacehaven on the south coast of England, near Brighton, in a parish that had a tragedy attached to it. The parish priest ahead of me there was Father Manuel, an Indian priest, who died in a fire in the presbytery. So they were without a priest. So I went in there and spent the next 8 years there, 2004 to 2012, and was very happy there, and it went well. Many nationalities. I remember one day a young man from the Cameroon coming in, and he was looking for a place to go to church. His name escapes me now. But anyway, he came back the following morning again. That was a Saturday evening. And because I was standing at the door and making welcome, he came back. And I think making people welcome to church, especially those who come for the first time, and maybe inviting them and calling them out by name and letting the congregation acknowledge their presence, that I think is a very important part of pastoral ministry. So after that, 2012, the seminary, there was a seminary in the diocese, and the spiritual director of the seminary, St. John's Wanish, he was going on a sabbatical, and Bishop Kieran asked me if I would go to the seminary and stand in for him while I was away. So that was 2 years in St. John's Seminary, Wanish. I spent 2 years there. and 2014 left and arrived here in Holy Cross, 10 miles from home, in June 2014. So I've been here since, and this is a lovely community. There are residents here, so I have a community here, and I help out in the parish from time to time with morning masses. We have mass here in Surrey itself on Saturday evenings at 5 o'clock. So I'm very happy in my retirement. I think you asked me what it's like to be in my 90s, 91
Yes,
actually.
yes,
91 gone. Well, I'm very active and very busy. At the moment, I'm working on our family tree and digging up friends and relations and people I'm linked up to. I feed the birds and I sit down at the keyboard and can play some tunes. Still able to get around on the computer. And during COVID, I took up the study of Irish again. I was good at Irish when I was in my young days. So I'm back learning that again now and keeping going on that. And generally trying to keep myself up to date and looking at the church and how the church is, the changes that are taking place. And the changes in the Irish church, where we have a church, I think, that whose current structures are dying and something new has to emerge, is emerging very, very quickly. I'm wondering how that will go. Maybe when they need to get back to a church of, the house kind of house church, local cells. I don't know. We have a long way to go here. I can contrast the church here with my experience, say, in Lagos or in K2, where at 6 o'clock in the morning you might have a church full maybe of 1,000 or more people, and the vibrancy and the enthusiasm and the singing and the drumming of that, the life that's there in the church in Africa. We seem to have got a bit tired, have got a bit older, whatever, I don't know, but we need some kind of a new experience or a new outpouring of the Holy Spirit. So there I am. Not sure how long that's to go. I still play a little bit of golf, but the weather can be cold. It's nice in the summertime, not so nice in the wintertime. But I'm very happy and no regrets.
Yeah, the younger missionaries now who are just starting off, what words of wisdom would you give them to make them succeed in life? Would you say? Yeah.
The love of God is at work in small ways and in big ways. I mean, that eye is stepping on a stake. I was told later on, if I stepped near to the head or near to the tail, I would have been bitten, and 'twas a poisonous snake. So that has given me a profound sense of that God is there and the Spirit is at work. I think we have to take the message deep into us as students are doing. I remember on one occasion in a payroll, after a 30-day retreat, asking one of the students, how was it? And he said, I met the Lord. So the Lord is the one there to give, strength and to be patient. It's be patient with the slow work of God. Be patient with internationalization. I think internationalization could have been done and maybe should have been done at an earlier stage, because there is a gap today between the younger students and priests, for how many priests, 30 to 40 priests, and the older. There's that kind of a gap there, and we now have to rush to fill it, but to be patient. God is at work, and I would have great hope, confidence in our new leadership team, and they will have their problems, and students and priests will make mistakes or maybe take the wrong turn now and again, but to come back, the mercy of God, the power of God, the grace of God is there too at every stage of the way. Be faithful to prayer, be faithful to your daily routine. I was stripped in a payroll belongings, these things. But afterwards, you can eat the good of it. Maybe I need to be stripped again. Like we keep So each man has to work it out himself. But I think one thing that's very strong, would be structured very strong with St. Paul's, they had a great community spirit, even though they were national and there were many different, you had different students from different tribal areas, but there was a great sense of togetherness and bondedness, and that is very important. They need, I think, our younger students need that. We're not going, you won't go it alone. There's no such thing as plowing your own furrow. I think we're in this together, and to have good, healthy relationships, men and women, and to experience is like having your own garden and sowing flowers. I'm talking metaphorically, sowing nice flowers and plants and shrubbery that you can admire, to be able to admire the things you've got yourself, and to your own giftedness, be aware of that, and let nobody take that from you, and to have a sense of your own self-worth. That's important. And the grace of God building on nature, being fully incarnate. I take inspiration from men like Richard Rohr, particularly, on the modern view he has that. But each morning I go up here to the oratory and do a holy hour and say office of reading is a morning prayer. That sets me right for the day. So Joe, I think that's...
Thank you very much, Tom. Thank you. I do recall the evening we celebrated Father Tom's 40th priestly anniversary in the Formation House in Ijebu in Mushin. I always felt Father Tom was a very blessed man who was close to God, and he was willing to impart knowledge and leave you a better person than when he first saw you. I was grateful to have met and lived with him. I am so glad he gave me this special interview. I wish to thank his family for giving him to my people. We wish Father Tom good health in mind and body as he continues his retirement. Joe.Archibong for SPMS Media.